Good evening, folks. Freedom at last. The new, silent, shotless American Revolution. Everything has shifted in the political scene. Everything has shifted in our culture. The establishment has lost. The media, married to the establishment, the crooked establishment, has lost. The deep state's in deep trouble, because they're going to go in and clean house and make America great again. Without their meddling, without the high cost of everything, without sitting there doing things irregardless of what it does to us, ignoring what we feel, in their lone little bubble. You have to understand these people, these extreme leftists, Marxists, socialists. I'll call them out for what they are, communists. And that's the path we were on. That's the path Obama wanted to change America to. And that's the path Kamala's father taught her when he was teaching Marxism in Berkeley. And that's the same path that the weirdo vice president that wanted tampons in the boys' bathroom wanted when he sat there and carried children from Minnesota over to Red China to visit with him, at the Red Chinese expense, of course. Just like any other government, they're not going to give money or give freebies like that without a catch. I'm sure there was a catch. And they caught this guy. And thank God we disposed of him. So he's going to disappear from America's memory, I'm sure. Kamala thinks she's going to sit there and run again. I think she will have to sit there and fade into the woodwork. If people ask, I ask my students, why did Kamala lose? They came up with all sorts of things, misogyny, sexism. Men didn't want a woman president. I'm sorry, but the Republican Party now is so diverse and so inclusive that we have plenty of black women that I would vote for. There are plenty of Spanish women like Lake out in Arizona, or Marsha Blackburn, or Nome, Governor Nome, or Tulsi Gabbard, who came from the Democratic Party and ran as a president in the primaries against Joe, that's now on the became a Republican. As far as black men, Obama was not the right black man. And this lady was not the right lady, if you want to call her a lady. She was lazy, unprepared. 97% of her staff quit on her because she was toxic. Okay? She was a fake. Whatever she presented to you in public was a fake and total lies. She was never going to do any of those things she said she was going to do. The View was the final straw that broke her back because they were the ones giving her softball questions, and she looked like a deer in the headlights every time. And I'm sure she got the questions ahead of time. And all she could do was spew hate, and that she was just running against Donald Trump. And that's the way they all are. You got to understand the liberal or the extremist philosophy. They got this bubble, this utopian bubble and goal that they're looking at. And the goal is achievable by all means possible, irregardless of who it hurts, who you got to step on. They don't care. They don't care about the little people. They sit there and see this goal. Well, try it. It doesn't work. It obviously didn't work, and it hasn't worked in the last century. They say, well, If it didn't work, let's try it harder. Or if it didn't work, let's throw more money at it. That is their philosophy, people. That is the Washington, D.C. philosophy. The establishment has been shot down tonight, without a shot. A bloodless revolution, an American revolution of freedom and return to the Constitution. They keep saying they're going with the Constitution. That is, why would they sit there and close down churches and schools during the pandemic and keep strip clubs and other things open? They wanted a government instead of for the people, by the people, for the state, and by the state. That's it. They wanted your loyalty to be to the state. And she said it in her concession speech to the Constitution. Well, she meant by the state. By closeness. Okay? She didn't sit there and say, you owe your allegiance to God. She does not believe that. Marxists and communists do not believe that you should be worshiping God. It gets in their way. And now we have a God-fearing, unselfish man who they sit there and tried to sit there and impeach about 6 times with phony, trumped-up things. And then they sit there and tried lawfare against him, and the American public saw right through it. Said, this is lawfare. A raid on Mar-a-Lago, the ex-president's place? What the heck is going on? Was that going to be a standoff between the Secret Service protecting him and the FBI and tactical units and arresting supporters and sitting there declaring that MAGA people make America great again, which Clinton used in his campaign, are all evil, fascist, misogynist, sexist? That's half the population of the United States, and now it is more than half of the population, because this man finally did something that hasn't been done in this millennia, is catch the popular vote and the Electoral College vote. This was a landslide. It was a mandate. There was nothing they could do. It was too big to rig. A few places they tried. He sat there and he even lost New York by only 5%. He increased his approval rating in New York City by 20%. Even in blue places, his popularity increased. The new Republican Party that he has created is more diverse, more inclusive. It's a big tent now. We've had people sitting there scrambling from the Democratic Party to the party of common sense. And that's what it is. That's all it is. We want the lunacy to stop. Well, the lunacy stops in January at the inauguration. The lunacy stops. People just want to return to common sense. They don't want to sit there and worry about their daughters in college or in high school sitting and having guys come into their locker room during female sports time. They don't want that. I don't want it. My daughter's grown now, and so are my grandkids. So all my grandkids are grown. I got a great-grandkid. And that's great-grandson. I want him to grow up in the America I remember. Then the black middle class was growing and growing strong until Obama got a hold of it. And being the true communist he was, he knew that communism cannot survive with a large middle class. And they went about trying to destroy it. That was a cultural war. And we're trying to sit there and win the cultural war now. Okay? We need the military not to be woke. We need the military to learn how to fight and kill like they're supposed to. And not that they have to go do it, but the fact that the rest of the world knows it. Now we got peace breaking out in the Middle East. Now Hamas wants to talk peace. Wow. Now we are respected again suddenly, that much overnight. Now people in the Middle East, in the Ukraine-Russian war, want to talk peace. Well, Putin wants to get out of this thing. He's lost 200,000 soldiers in this thing. That's why he had to import 12,000 daggone Korean soldiers. And I'm sure he's got some Iranian soldiers in there too. Okay? And Trump will do it by putting those restrictions right back on Iran, sitting there starving their oil income so that they can't fund all this terrorism. And we won't have these funky sanctions on Russia that Biden would put on, where we're still buying fuel from Russia by using India to buy it for us and then buying it from them. Yeah, they got all those tricks up their sleeve. You see, they are ideologues. They just think that if it didn't work before, we must just try harder. Or we just must spend more money on it. And it doesn't matter what it does to people. They don't care. The fact that she did not go and visit her supporters, waiting at that, what they thought was going to be a celebration, she just abandoned them. She doesn't care about people. She cares about herself. That's it. And she's got no real values. She was the laziest vice president. She should have been under tutelage of a president as vice president, so she could be ready to step in. No, she was too lazy, and besides that, they hated each other, and they wouldn't talk to each other. And yet, The View, she sat there and says, I wouldn't have done anything different, and I was part of all the important decisions. Well, there's her own admission. She was actually acting as president while this Alzheimer idiot was out there spending all his time at Rehoboth Beach. Okay? I would stay well away from Rehoboth Beach after seeing him in his bathing suit out there. That is not a sight to behold. Kind of like me. Beach whale. Anyway, folks, this is it. I worked the polls. We had California people that had moved to Florida in my polling station, sitting there saying, gee, that was so easy. I wish California would have been like Florida. I would have never left California. I got a distant cousin in California, sat there and said she wished she could afford to move to Florida. I said, do you realize the reason that you can't afford to move to Florida is because you can't afford to live in California? We're getting 800 people a day moving into this thing. And you know something? Trump captured the 18 to 25-year-old vote by 50%. And I saw some of those new voters come through my voting station, and they were just enthusiastic, and they were for Trump. There's only one or two people in a class of 30 that I teach government and civics to that were not for Trump, and that's black and white, female, male. Well, folks, this is our Independence Day. A new revolution, a cultural revolution, and the political landscape has shifted greatly. This is a landslide. It's a mandate. We have the Congress, we got the Senate. Now we can get back to normal. Normalcy. I'm not going to sit there and quote what Harding said after World War I. No. I wasn't alive for that. Get that through your heads. All right. But anyway, God bless you. Thank you for your vote. And God bless America. And may we continue on with God's blessing. Thank you. Good night. And I remain your humble servant.